Officer candidate or officer aspirant is a rank in some militaries of the world. It is an appointed position while a person is in training to become an officer. More often than not, an officer candidate was a civilian who applied to join the military directly as an officer. Officer candidates are therefore not considered of the same status as enlisted personnel. In several NATO countries, the term officer designate is used. In the NATO rank scale, it comes below the grade of 1 and above the grade of student officer. Ranks designated as of D include Dokimos Ephedros Axiomatikos in the Hellenic Army, and Chunuy in the Vietnam People's Army. In the German Armed Forces, officer designates are enlisted personnel and have a corresponding rank code. Finland. In the Finnish Defence Forces, officer candidate is an NCO rank comparable to sergeant. Usually officer candidates are chosen as conscripts, and along with officer cadets are promoted to the rank of second lieutenant. Germany. In the German Armed Forces, officer designates are enlisted personnel. Soldiers accepted for officer training are given the annotation for officer.More to the rank. Then the designate progresses through the ranks of Fahnenkörper, Fähnrich and Oberfähnrich in the Army and Air Force. Officer designates in the Navy go through the corresponding ranks of Sea Cadet, Fähnrichsjäger and Oberfähnrichsjäger instead. Officer designates in the Army and Air Force wear the same uniform and insignia as the corresponding NCOs, added a silver metal tissue cord on their shoulder straps. A distinction to this is the insignia of the Oberfähnrich. His service and dress uniforms, including the shoulder straps, are sewed the silver piping, indicating the officer career instead of the NCO piping. However, his rank insignia on mounting lutes for the field uniform are identically to the non-commissioned Hauptfeldwebel, plus the cord of the officer designate. The Navy doesn't use a silver cord to indicate the officer designates. Instead, a golden nautical star is displayed. The rank insignia of Sea Cadet and Fähnrichsjäger is the same as for the corresponding NCOs, but exchanges the anchor symbol with the nautical star. The rank insignia for Oberfähnrichsjäger is leaned to the lieutenantjäger, displaying the nautic star and a golden half stripe, also on the field uniform. The Philippines. In the Philippines, an officer candidate or OC is a civilian or enlisted personnel who holds a baccalaureate degree and who wants to earn a commission as an officer in the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Upon admission to the officer candidate school, officer candidates are appointed as probationary second lieutenants and probationary ensigns. United Kingdom. In the British Armed Forces, officer candidates, potential officer candidates are civilians or enlisted persons who apply to join the service as an officer. This does not infer rank or salutation. United States. Officer candidate, U.S. Army. In the United States Army, officer candidates attend either the Federal Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia, Federal Military Academies, or ROTC programs at a civilian university that follow the same curriculum and requirements. Soldiers who attend OCS are usually prior service enlisted personnel, though civilians with college degrees can enlist and go directly to OCS after basic training. With regard to rank, a U.S. Army officer candidate exists in a gray area. They are enlisted soldiers who lose all rank status when reporting to the course. Regardless of pay grade, candidates are outranked by any course cadre or permanent party enlisted soldiers they may encounter, although the status does not correspond to a position of authority within the standard U.S. Army ranks. Candidates serve in leadership training roles at the platoon or company level. They are addressed as candidate by the OCS cadre. During the first few weeks of indoctrination, candidates are treated much the same as a new recruit. In the final weeks of training, OCS platoons may achieve senior status and senior officer candidates may be addressed as Sir or Ma'am by more junior candidates, but never by other enlisted ranks. The pay grade for a U.S. Army officer candidate is E5 or E6 on the enlisted pay scale, unless the candidate previously achieved a higher enlisted rank. For example, an E7 who becomes a candidate would continue to receive E7 pay. The OCS uniform is stripped of the rank patch, which is replaced by the letters OCS. Upon commissioning, a candidate becomes a second lieutenant, U.S. Marine Corps. In the United States Marine Corps, officer candidates are trained by Marine officers and staff non-commissioned officer Marines at the Officer Candidates School in Quantico, Virginia, U.S. Navy. In the United States Navy, officer candidates are trained at either the Officer Candidate School or Officer Development School in Newport, Rhode Island. A parallel program known as Aviation Officer Candidate School at NAS, Pensacola, Florida, previously produced officers slated to become naval aviators, naval flight officers, air intelligence officers and aircraft maintenance duty officers not otherwise procured via the U.S. Naval Academy or NROTC. A major distinction between the two programs was the use of enlisted Marine Corps drill instructors in the AOCS program, a vestige from the World War II and early 1950s period when AOCS graduates were given the option of being commissioned in the U.S. Navy or U.S. Marine Corps before proceeding to flight training. AOCS was disestablished in 1994 due to BRAC action and merged into the current OCS program in 1994. Officer candidate is also the rank to which participants in the active duty commissioning program, Seaman to Admiral 21, are appointed. Star 21 officer candidates are appointed to the rank at the Naval Science Institute and go on to hold the rank while training with the Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps at NROTC-affiliated universities. While attached to the colleges or universities, officer candidates are looked to as mentors to the midshipmen throughout the school year. They must maintain 2.0 GPAs, and are urged to assist midshipmen in developing their own leadership abilities. Star 21 OCs maintain their enlisted pay grade and eligibility for enlisted advancement. The number of sailors selected each year to participate in the Seaman to Admiral 21 program varies from year to year. Fiscal year 2010 admitted about 200 candidates, FY11 to 115, and FY12 about 75. Currently, the program has been downsized to only admit 50 candidates. The rank of officer candidate is denoted by an officer's uniform with no insignia except for a line officer's star device on white and dress blue uniforms. On khaki and working blue uniforms, fouled anchors are worn on the collar points until candidate officer status is achieved, at which time OCs wear the bar insignia similar to the senior midshipman first-class counterparts at the U.S. Naval Academy and in NROTC. U.S. Coast Guard. In the United States Coast Guard, officer candidates are trained at the Officer Candidate School located at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut. Officer trainee, U.S. Air Force. In the United States Air Force, officer candidates are known as officer trainees and are trained at the Officer Training School at Maxwell AFB, Alabama. Similar to the Army officer candidates, Air Force officer trainees exist in a gray zone with regard to rank, and the status does not directly correspond to a position of seniority or authority within the standard Air Force ranks. Typically, they are referred to or addressed as OT, and during the first few weeks of indoctrination, are treated much the same as a new recruit. The pay for an officer trainee, however, is equal to an E5 on the enlisted pay scale, unless the candidate previously achieved a higher enlisted rank than E5, E.g., an E7 who becomes a candidate would continue to receive E7 pay, and so on. Once commissioned, the new officer advances to the pay rate of O1, unless they have at least 4 years of active duty service, in which case they are paid the higher O1E rate in recognition of the prior enlisted service. Such pay continues at promotion to the next 2 grades, but is discontinued at the grade of O4. OT rank insignia loosely parallels that of Air Force ROTC in United States Air Force Academy cadet insignia, except in the case of the directly commissioned chaplains, lawyers, and medical personnel.